Are you looking for the best Airbnb property investment in Nashville, Tennessee? Well, look no further than our newest listing at 4012 Unit A on Indiana Avenue in Nashville, Tennessee. Before we get into that, let me introduce myself to you. My name is David Goodman. I'm the team lead at the Grow team at Real Broker, and I'm here today with my business partner, Pete Blankenship, who specializes in short-term rentals. And I want to let you know how we first became involved in this property at 4012 Indiana Avenue. We actually came to it not from the selling side, but from the buyer side. We were working with a set of clients that were looking for the best property on the market, and we really felt like we found the best property for them. And this particular property we came to independently of anyone else. This was something that we knew based on the location, the price, and the quality of the build that this was a strong candidate for purchase. And that was as of 3 months ago, and now they're in their initial launch and doing really, really well. And now that they are closed, we are now stepping in on the selling side so that we can sell the counterpart of this property, which is Unit A. Now, Pete, thank you for joining. Would you mind just giving a brief introduction of yourself, and then we'll get right into the analysis of this property?
Absolutely. My name is Pete Blankenship. I am a short-term rental specialist for the Real Grow team. My background includes rental arbitrage for several years. Vacasa tapped me to run their market for a few years, grew them to a few hundred units, at which point we acquired turnkey vacation rentals. At one point managed over 550 units with my team in Nashville, have since been a broker helping people buy and sell units for the last 4 years or so, and really can answer any questions in detail in regards to investments in Nashville, zonings, etc., for short-term rentals, Airbnbs, etc. So,
Pete, for the broader audience of just someone who's looking at analyzing short-term rentals in general, what are the components that you're looking at as you're picking deals one from another?
Yeah, excellent question. Components I'm really looking at, we find good deals all the time, but I know pretty quick and which deals are going to work out and which aren't based on price, firstly. And then, we can get into the details on how much they're willing to put down. That can affect cash flow if that's a major goal. If we're looking at 10-year holds, plus, if that's part of their strategy, then appreciation may be a major play. If we're looking at the East Bank, let's just say, David, that you and I have looked at a lot, the Oracle development, Amazon, and the new Nissan Stadium, and all these things, you're going to pay into that a little now, but obviously over time, you'll have a higher appreciation on average. So all kinds of things we look at, but first and foremost, price, then location, what kind of amenities, what we're putting down, what our strategy is, and then we can determine if it's the best option for you to move forward on.
And so what I'm hearing, and I'll break this down a little bit, it's price and it's location. What are you getting for the location versus the price? And so lots of us will be looking at 12 South or the Gulch or anywhere near Broadway as the target of where you want to be, because that's where a lot of your customers are going to be going to. But often is the case, if not always is the case in those situations, that the price doesn't really meet the expectation of what the revenue is going to be, right? So they don't always make the most sense when you're looking at one property to the next, especially if you care about cash flow. Not everyone does, but for the most part, people that we work with, Pete, they care about cash flow.
Right.
And so that's why location is really, really key. And so when we are looking at properties, often we're balancing. It's a balance act between location and then the price. And so I think that's a key point for this property. Now let's talk about the location here. I've got on a map here, I've got 4012 Indiana Avenue, and it's where it's kind of strategically located. You can see that downtown is right here. That's kind of the target. And you can see it is about a 10-minute Uber ride to get downtown. We're right off 40th Avenue where you're going to hit Charlotte Pike and have that quick Uber ride down into downtown. And if you're looking at properties in general, Pete, you would agree, you basically want to stay, 15 minutes to downtown? What's your metric there?
Yeah, you want to be 15 minutes or so from the bottom of Broadway, let's say Acme Feed and Seed.
Yeah, and let's talk about this particular area. Now, we mentioned downtown, which I've got here in green. Let me break down where the Nations is and what kind of confines the Nations. This is the Nations area. Now, you can see that we are kind of on the east side or the north side of the Nations. So we are several blocks closer to downtown in this location versus if you were further west in this residential area. Now, if you're thinking about, okay, what is the Nations? The Nations is a great, very hip residential area. Lots of new construction in this area. It's got it's a revibrance and revitalization of the whole spot. It used to be more impoverished, let's be honest, and now it is completely kind of transformed into a very walkable, new construction kind of place where a lot of young families and young professionals now live. And with that, you've got breweries, bars, retail shopping, coffee shops, all sorts of things that are kind of integrated into this residential area. And we can say that this property takes advantage of all of those spots. But one thing I want to point out, and I'm doing this on my map here, I want to talk about the proximity to Charlotte Pike in an area called Sylvan Park. Anyone that's familiar with Sylvan Park knows that it is one of the more historically prominent neighborhoods in all of Nashville. It's a beautiful place, and a place that you're not going to see hardly any short-term rentals because the people that live there, these are basically historical houses, and for the most part, if it's a historical house, it's in a residential area, it's on a residential lot, and it is not getting torn down to build a short-term rental eligible property. It is existing, it's been a really, really nice house for a long time, and these are selling in the $1 million to $1.3 million price range, right? And so with that, you get everything else that you would expect in Sylvan Park, which is restaurants, coffee shops, retail shopping, very walkable commercial happenings that are happening here. And I just want to show you the proximity from this property, which is here, and we're going about 3 blocks across Charlotte Pike over to Sylvan Park, and we're going to call this West Sylvan Park. Now, I've got another video that really gets you out. You can check that video out. We'll have it available where we walk through the property, and then when we take you out to this area so you can get a feel for what this neighborhood's really like. So I love the Nations, but this area of West Sylvan Park is really what your customer base is going to be walking to when they're looking up restaurants. And there are several over here. And one thing I do know about short-term rentals is that your customer base, they want to be able to walk to these restaurants, and they want to get the local flavor of this area, and they'll have plenty of options, including 5 Points Pizza, 8th and Roast, other really, really nice restaurants that are just local to Nashville. They'll be within walking distance, which is why I really think that this property is in what I like to call the Goldilocks location. So we are far enough away from downtown that we're not priced beyond what it makes sense to purchase, but we are close enough to local amenities that are within walking distance. So you have the best of both worlds, an up and coming area that with walkability, and also far enough from downtown that you're not paying a ridiculous price that's going to wipe out all of your cash flow. So I just wanted to bring those points up and why we really thought strongly about this particular area. It's got a great balance of those two components. Pete, can we now just get right into the analysis of what are the numbers on this and why, and how did you come to those numbers, and how confident do you feel about them? I'm going to bring up your revenue. Can you just talk about where you get these numbers and how you come up with that?
Yeah, absolutely, and good question. I get these numbers really based on my experience as a manager, but also, I have a lot of connections with other managers in town, as you do, David, and people that we refer our clients to, people that we reach out to, people that we network with. we can reach out to them and ask them, hey, about how much are these units earning, and then we can start to get a good range based on revenue, and then we know based on who's managing them as well, how good of a manager they are, especially in these buildings, where there's 30 units. You get to really see who performs well, who sets the rates well.
Good point.
Yeah, but you can look at things like AirDNA and Rabu and Mashvisor, and there's nothing wrong with those at all. They're excellent companies, but they are ultimately meant to inform you on the overall market. And they're in no way narrowed down in the way that we can get you, actual comparable data. They're going to take it based on locational, and we could have a 4-bedroom units all right next to each other. One makes 100,000, one makes 200,000, one makes 50, one makes 40. That average is obviously going to be around 100,000 or so in that instance, 80,000 or so. That's not really a clear indication, based on a 2,400 square foot house like this one with a backyard, walk-in closets, shower, rainfall showers, rooftop balcony, private parking. There's so many amenities, that this specific unit has that it's going to push it higher on the revenue spectrum. So that's kind of where I get my data, speak to other managers. Obviously, we have clients we can connect with. So, we really get our data at a lot more firm, data analytical way rather than just plugging it into a pro forma and expecting a magical number to give us the confidence.
So it's based on real experience, and it's based on real relationships that we have from the best managers in the city, and we're comparing 4-bedroom, 3-bath properties that are in this exact area and operating at a higher level, and then we're giving that information to our clients. So if you'd like to see this analysis, we'd be happy to send it to you. Just to get into the numbers and how this one's performing, considering a 4-bed, it's actually 3 baths, 12 guests. You've got total revenue projection at $131,000. Can you talk about what breaks that down and how you get to that 131 number?
Yeah, absolutely. Other than just, speaking to my management partners to determine a range and obviously plugging things in, ultimately it comes down to the brass tacks is how often are you booked and at what price, right? Your average daily rate and your occupancy rate. So in this instance, I think we had a 76% occupancy rate and a 472 average nightly rate. So that's how I got to that gross revenue. But there's expenses built in on these reports that I estimate. Management expenses backed out, Airbnb fees 3% backed out, cleaning fees backed out. If depending on the management partner you're using, sometimes they're included, sometimes they're not. So I like to put them in on my underwriting to determine what our real numbers looking like. So yeah, this one obviously a great cap rate for Nashville.
Yeah, you've got it at 10%, and the market cap rate is 6%.
Right. Yeah, I would say a pretty good buy, in the Nashville market. If you're buying a triple net property or something commercially evaluated, which is what these are, is commercial valuations, we'd be at a 6% or so. So yeah, anything at this rate in Nashville is great. I think I have a 4% appreciation in here, which I think is very realistic and conservative, to be fair, for this neighborhood and everything that's happening in Nashville and the amount of, financial tourism, et cetera, that's coming into Nashville. This allows you to have group stays, companies wanting to have a retreat. Still, I think you and I jumped over to East Nashville the other day together from this property. It took us 15 minutes to get to the edge of East Nashville. Could easily take you 10 minutes to get to downtown in an Uber, cost you $12. These are all things that clients look at, customers look at when they're looking if they're going to book your property and it's going to convert to dollars for you. So ultimately, this property and the revenue that I have here in my reports that we build is all available, when you contact us, and we can get it to you.
So, and just in case you're not seeing, we've got $33,000 in cash flow of projection. Now that's going to be a range, and it's really going to be dependent on how you run a business, which is why whenever we're working with buyers, we're not just selling ourselves as getting you into a house. We're really selling ourselves as being experts and consults in this space so that we can connect you with the best players in the space up-to-date information on how things are working, from management to furnishings and design. And that goes for the selling side too. We want to make sure that you're successful in this property. And when you purchase a property from us, that's exactly what you're going to get. So one last thing I want to touch on, which differentiates this property from others, is that for the most part, you're going to be buying, these are all being built, and so builders are building short-term rental eligible properties that are zoned correctly, and they're typically building 2 or more on one lot, okay? And so one thing that I look at intently is whether or not I'm competing against one other property that is exactly the same to begin with, or if I'm competing against 10 to 20 to 30. And I think often is the case that when you're buying these, you're buying them against many others that are starting off as exactly the same. And I want to point out with this particular property, that is not the case. You're not competing against 10 other properties. There's only one other property that's connected. Very nice people, by the way, but in any case, you'll have the blank canvas that you need to really run a successful business without competing against 20 to 30 other units that are all hitting the market at the exact same time. So just want to point that out. Pete, thank you so much for meeting. If anyone would like to get with us and do a short-term rental consultation and talk more about this particular property, we would absolutely love the opportunity to do that. Again, we came into this from the buyer's side. We obviously believe in the product, and now we're here on the selling side to hopefully tell the story to a broader audience. If you'd like to get a full tour of the house, including some of the residential areas that we go out into the space, there is another video. I also have a map with all the restaurants and shopping that I mentioned earlier. That's in the link in the description below. I want to thank Wagon Wheel for letting me film this right here. We do all of our closings with Wagon Wheel as well. But again, I hope we found this informative. Let us know if you'd like to schedule a private showing, and we hope to hear from you soon.